Let's now turn to Clyde Hufbauer. He's a non-resident senior fellow at Peterson Institute for International Economics. He's joining us to put this all into perspective. Thank you so much for joining us, Gary. Firstly, did Mr. Trump blink, or was this 90-day pause a part of his strategy from the beginning?
Oh, there's no strategy. This is all policy by Trump's instinct, his gut. And he did blink. And the reason he blinked, and I said it long ago to my colleagues and other press people, that the stock market and the bond market would be very much against him. And also the fear of inflation in the United States by ordinary people very much against him. And he didn't believe this when he started off on April 2nd with these blockbuster tariffs, but the markets taught him a lesson. And he's an agile politician, so he shifted his message very dramatically today. If you live to be 100 years old, you won't see many days like this. It's just remarkable.
So, Gary, I guess the question now is whether or not the danger of a recession in the United States and also, a global slowdown, has that been removed, at least for now? Because we know that baseline 10% is still there. It has to be inflationary. And I don't believe there are very many Chinese suppliers, maybe none at all, who can offer a 125% discount. So it sounds really, from my perspective, like an end to U.S.-China trade. And this is, these are the two largest economies in the world.
Yes. In 2024, two-way trade between the U.S. and China was about $600 billion, 400 billion of imports by the U.S. from China, and about 200 billion exports by the U.S. to China. And that trade is going to drop very sharply. I'll be surprised if we have more than $200 billion of two-way trade during 2025 in light of these mutual tariffs. And this will disrupt world trade quite a bit, but most of the disruption is both in China and the United States. But let me say, China is in a stronger position than the United States in this battle because they don't have inflation, and the U.S. has an inflation problem. And the leaders in China are less concerned about the stock market than our leaders. And so that gives China stronger playing cards in this game of poker.
Okay, Gary. So with the U.S. and China edging toward this sort of full-blown trade war, and President Trump suggesting no further tariffs on Beijing for now, what other economic tools or weapons could either side deploy in this escalating standoff?
Oh, yes. First of all, with the tariffs at their present level, as I said, trade is just going to crash. And it will be diverted to other countries by both the U.S. and China. But we've just started on the kind of weapons that can be applied. China has added more U.S. companies to its entity list, which means they can't do business in China. But China could suspend the intellectual property rights of many U.S. companies already doing business in China, just suspend their intellectual property rights. It could put special taxes on them. And then the big bonanza, or the big, not bonanza, but bazooka, I should say, is the financial market. China holds a very large volume of U.S. Treasury securities, and it could gradually or maybe rapidly sell them off as it anticipates a long-term trade, trade war. So there are more things that can be done.
Understood, Gary. I mean, aside from this bilateral tit for tat, we know right now China is trying to rally the world against the United States as well. I mean, are Washington's traditional allies like Japan and South Korea receptive to this? I mean, we know they've been stung by how they've been treated as well. So are they right now in the mood to help Trump deal with Beijing?
Well, both countries, Korea and Japan, trade more with China than they do with the U.S. But of course, their security is guaranteed by the U.S. My guess or expectation is that Korea and Japan will just end up with long-term U.S. 10% tariffs plus tariffs on particular sectors like steel and semiconductors that are exported. This is not a happy position for Korea or Japan, or for that matter, Vietnam, Thailand, other countries in Asia. But it's better than it was 24 hours ago when the U.S. tariffs were very much higher than what looks like being the likelihood for the next several months while this pause takes effect and even afterwards.
Okay, understood, Gary. I mean, as we go into this period where as many as 75 countries, by the White House count, are going to talk to the Trump administration, what sort of an approach are you expecting from them? Because, you know, even before this pause, CNN was reporting that, you know, foreign countries were being advised to think creatively as they prepare to negotiate, you know, go beyond trade. They say, help secure the freedom of detained Americans. As an example, work with American AI companies, not the Chinese, fight fentanyl, things like that. Is that what you're expecting, you know, these countries to do when they sit down and talk? I mean, I guess the question really is Trump actually using tariffs as a blunt tool to achieve other policy objectives where he can?
Well, yes, for Asian countries that you mentioned in particular, the U.S. will try to persuade them to cut off technology flows to China or selling high-tech products to China. It will want to get them to make commitments to reduce these sales and reduce their purchases from China. I guess to some extent, some of the countries will oblige the United States. Other countries will find that that's too painful for them. So I expect kind of kind of a rocky relationship as long as Trump is in office, because he will make stronger demands. They will meet some of the demands, but not all of them. So then we'll continue the negotiation plus the tariff threats.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much for your insight this morning. That was Clyde Hufbauer, non-resident senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics.